Welcome to Cut the Crop, keeping you in the know about everything you grow. Researchers, growers and other interesting folk delivering insights and information on topics ranging from agronomy to profitability. Brought to you by the Foundation for Arable Research.
Hello and welcome to Cut the Crop. I'm your host Anna Heslop, and today my guest is a visiting US academic, Professor Dwayne Cartmell from Oklahoma State University. Welcome, Dwayne.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
So for those of you whose US geography is a wee bit ropey, Oklahoma is landlocked. They grow wheat. It's just immediately above Texas if you're looking at a map of the states. We're going to cover quite a few things in this chat today, but we're going to start off with what Dwayne's role actually is at Oklahoma and why he's here. So Oklahoma State University has quite an agricultural focus, that's right?
That is correct. Yeah, Oklahoma State is a land-grant institution focused on agriculture and the mechanical arts. And so we do have a very strong agricultural focus in what we do. My role is I'm a professor of agricultural communications. So I teach in our agricultural communications academic program.
And so what does that actually encompass?
Yeah, so the Ag Communications program is broadly a program that's preparing young people to move out into industry and work in the communications field, either communicating about agricultural issues to the public or perhaps working for an agricultural organization where they're communicating about issues of the organization to the producers. So it's a little bit of both.
So that's quite broad ranging.
Yes, yeah.
I'm interested in the whole agricultural communication because our rural community here often feels like the rest of the world doesn't understand them. Do you think that your Oklahoma farmers feel the same?
I would imagine that in some cases, yeah, across the United States, I think our agricultural producers at times feels that the general public doesn't understand what they do on a regular basis. And so I do think there's that gap. And that's what Ag Communications is designed for, is to really build and spread information across that gap to help the general public understand agriculture, food, natural resources, where their products are coming from, agricultural practices and the importance of those things in the agricultural production process. And so that's the role that we play.
Do the American public understand that food grows on farms and milk comes from cows and wheat makes bread and stuff like that?
Sure. I think that the American public is savvy enough that most of them do understand that. I'm not going to say that all. I do think that there are people who go to the grocery store and get chocolate milk and don't realize that, it comes from cows. Or they get chocolate milk and they think it comes from brown cows or, something like that. But in the main, I do think people understand that how the food process works. Yeah.
And do they understand that balance between production and environment?
I think there are probably challenges associated with that, especially as you talk about the need for pesticides or herbicides or other kinds of things. I think I think the general public gets lost in the scientific data. And that's really the role of an ag communicator, is to try to help them decipher that scientific data and understand why it's important.
Do you have any secret little weapons we could use here? I mean, who or what makes a good ag communicator?
Well, I think someone who's informed and who has the ability to communicate in a way that can put words together or orally communicate the issues in a way that people can understand it. I think that, and I think at the end of the day, one of the things that's really important as we communicate messages about agriculture is finding people that the general public can trust and resonate with, that can help tell that story. I think that's just critically important.
Do you think that farmers make good ag communicators?
I think that they can be good ag communicators if they're prepared and trained and understand how to communicate in a way that people can understand and not get bogged down in the science or get defensive in situations or things like that.
Yeah, because we find that that people are interested in where their food is coming from.
Absolutely.
And as you say, that defensive thing can be quite tricky.
Yeah.
A question's just a question. It's not necessarily an attack.
Yeah. It's important that we understand that there are times where we need to sit down and have a conversation, right? And we're learning from each other, and that, I think that's really, really important.
Okay, so speaking about learning from each other, why are you in New Zealand?
Yeah, so tomorrow afternoon, I'll have a group of 20 students and a colleague and her husband that will be arriving here, and we'll be leading them across New Zealand, the South Island and the North Island, on a study tour, learning about agricultural practices, the things that we're talking about today, giving them a different perspective than what they might experience in the United States. And so we look forward to interacting with farms and organizations as we go over the next couple of weeks here.
So they're your AgCom students?
They're not all AgCom. There's a couple of them that are ag communication students, and the rest of them might be animal science or agricultural business or natural resource ecology and management. I think I've got a couple that maybe are landscape architecture. So they come from a variety of different degree program areas.
Well, it sounds like a kind of good excuse to. Do they get credits for coming on this
They
trip?
do. Yeah. It's a course credit. All of our students at the university are required to have an international dimension course. Now, we have some classes in our curriculum that will meet that requirement without traveling, but then we also have these travel experiences that will give them that opportunity to earn that credit while traveling and gaining some practical experience in another country. So I lead this trip. My colleague, who is our former department head, he leads a trip every year to the Czech Republic. And I've done trips to Scotland, England, and Ireland, and Costa Rica, and Thailand, and a number of other areas where we explore agriculture in those countries.
So you've been to New Zealand before?
Yes.
What do you see as the key similarities and differences between the New Zealand and, say, Oklahoma, which is the state you know best?
You know, the first time I came to New Zealand, I spent a little bit more time in Australia than New Zealand with our students. But when I got to the South Island, I felt some comfort in a lot of similarities to what we might experience in Oklahoma with cropland and things like that. And so I think that relation can help students understand agricultural practices. So I really enjoy just the similarities and the role of agriculture in society here.
So let's move on to the role of agriculture in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And now you're a communications professor.
Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah.
You're not a plant
I'm
scientist,
not a scientist. Yeah.
or a plant pathologist or an
Correct.
agronomist or any of those things. But
Yep.
That's never stopped me asking people questions. So
Fire away. I'll do my
fire away.
best.
Tell me all about wheat growing in Oklahoma. What sorts of wheat are they growing? What's the area and what's going on right now?
Yeah. So actually here in Oklahoma right now is our wheat harvest. This is the time of year where we're harvesting our crop. I did a little bit of looking last night, and it looks like here in 2024, we're anticipating almost somewhere around 100 million bushels of wheat to be harvested on 2.7 million acres. I think there's probably 4.6 million acres that have been planted. And so some of those acres go to other things like forage, and some of it may have gotten damaged by hail or weather type events and things like that. But we're having a really good crop this year. We've had good moisture and good weather patterns. And so we're excited about that. And hopefully we'll have a really bumper crop that they can get out of the field in the next few weeks. I would say they're probably 60 to 70% complete on harvest. And so just a few more weeks and we'll be wrapping up.
So where does that wheat go? What's it used for?
Yeah, so we grow hard red winter wheat primarily in Oklahoma, and that's used for baking. That's the primary focus of hard red winter wheat. And you'll find hard red winter wheat in Kansas and Oklahoma, sort of that southern plains area of the United States. And it'll go to milling companies for baking purposes.
And so it will mostly be used in state?
Yes and no. We do export quite a bit of grain as well, but that is a sort of a national market, and so it will just depend on the reserves that we have and the role that we need to the role that needs to be taken to disseminate that wheat product and use it in a timely way.
I was doing some research last night too, looking
Yeah.
on the Oklahoma State University
Mhm.
about cereal research. So it seems a lot of cereals are grazed.
Yes, yeah. The timing of wheat planting means that as that wheatgrass emerges, it becomes a really nice forage for grazing stocker cattle, and so you'll see a lot of wheat producers that will graze out their or graze their wheatgrass at a up to a point. Then they pull that cattle off so that it can go ahead and sprout and head and become a wheat plant, and so it's kind of dual purpose in that way.
Yeah, that's something that has been tried a little bit here sometimes to see the impact of grazing on yield and
Yeah.
tillering and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's not, people don't grow wheat for grazing. So
Yeah.
and it's quite interesting. What other sorts of crops would what we call arable farmers be growing? So they're not growing wheat in the same paddock every year.
No. We'll have some rotation that's happening with soybeans or corn or sorghum, or canola. We've got a number of crops like that do become a rotational cropping system for many of our producers.
So are there any legumes in there?
Peanuts,
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
and soy,
and soybeans.
alfalfa.
Yeah, we'll have some alfalfa acreage as well.
So there's just a little bit of legumes going through there.
Yeah.
So again, speaking to a professor of communication, what sort of research is the university doing for and with Oklahoma wheat growers?
Yeah, so we have a pretty robust research team that is focused on developing varieties of wheat that fit the climate and the system in Oklahoma. And it could be anything from the protein quality of the kernel to the size of the growth and height of the plant and the sturdiness of the plant to withstand Oklahoma winds and things like that. So there's a variety of factors that they're looking at on a regular basis as they produce a wheat plant or a wheat seed that can be used in production. And I think I'd have to go and confirm this, but I think about 90% of the acreage planted in Oklahoma is varieties that have been developed by Oklahoma State University.
And that's a climatic and geographical sort of breeding program that suits those soils and climate.
Yes, although I think that there are some similarities to the work that they're doing in some international climates as well. So there is some ability to take some of that research and globalize it. And I know that I believe just last week, leaders of our university and leaders of Kansas State University were together talking about their wheat team and wheat research and collaborations and ways that they can work together to improve hard red winter wheat growth in the United States.
We just talked about soil, and one of the things that probably crosses people's minds when they think about Oklahoma and Kansas is soil, or particularly the Dust Bowl of no soil a few decades back. How has that been managed, and how is that being managed going forward? What do we have an idea what soil quality is, or people know how do they manage what was a pretty tragic situation?
Yeah, there are tons of research pieces that have been done over the decades related to how do we increase soil nutrition, increase or rotate things that are on the soil so that we don't have this dust blowing. We think about the overall soil quality and the growth that we can do with that soil quality. There's also research that's being done, just looking at overall cropping systems and types of tillage and things like that, where we may be able to improve the soil without doing a lot of damage to the soil. And so there's tons of research that's happening at Oklahoma State University related to that.
I think those sorts of projects are happening the world over, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So do you have any plans to return to New Zealand?
I do. Yeah. This is my second year of leading a group of students here. I'm hopeful that I'll be able to continue to do this every year as long as there's student interest. So I hope to be back on a regular basis bringing students, but I'm also very interested in learning more about the agricultural sector in New Zealand, and in particular the role of ag communications and the need for ag communications and ag communicators. And so I would like to come back at some point, perhaps on a sabbatical or something like that, and spend a little bit of time really doing a needs analysis and looking at the role of the potential role that an ag communication certificate or program could play in training young people on how to communicate about science and agricultural type topics.
So is there at the moment, if somebody is listening to this and thinking, actually, that just, sounds like the rounded package of what I would love to do, is there any reason why they can't go and study in Oklahoma?
Oh, absolutely not. And I would value the opportunity to visit with them about what we could do and the experiences that they could have. Our ag communications program at OSU is one of the largest in the country. It's one of the most robust programs in the country in terms of what we do. And we do have some international students that come and explore, especially from Canada. But we do have some international students that come and complete a degree in our program.
Are you able to offer exchanges or?
That's one of the things we are able to do some of those kind of things, but it takes some work between the two universities to develop those formal processes. And it's something that as a part of my sabbatical, I'd like to explore here with a university here. I do think there is some opportunity for us to do some exchanges and give students some experiences, both directions, that could be of great value.
Thank you very much, Dwayne.
Oh, yeah.
Good luck for your trip and for your future plans. And hopefully we'll see you when you're back next year.
Yeah, I look forward to it. And thank you for hosting me today.
All you listeners out there, have a great day on the farm.
Thanks for tuning in to Cut the Crop, presented to you by FAR. If you'd like to know more about any of the topics discussed or have any suggestions for future topics, go to www.cutthecrop.co.nz.